The stars were silent that night. Silent and watching. Across the galaxy, on dozens of alien worlds, a transmission began to spread. It started as static, then turned into the sound of fire. The image came slowly, a blue planet burning, oceans boiling, and cities collapsing under beams of white light. Earth. In the control chamber of the Dominion fleet, High Commander Zarkol stood tall, his full golden eyes glowing. Around him, officers bowed in silence. The smell of victory filled the room. Cold, metallic, final. A voice echoed from the speakers, smooth and sharp. The human species is terminated. Their resistance has ended. Applause followed, hollow and cruel. Zarkol's claw touched the hologram of Earth, now marked with red scars. Weak creatures, he said. They fought with emotion, not reason. They cried before they burned. Let it be written, humanity was a lesson in failure. Across the stars, alien networks broadcasted the same message. On trade ships, in alien marketplaces, in the halls of distant rulers, the image of Earth's destruction became entertainment. The humans were finished. Their cities turned to ash, their skies filled with smoke. But then, the transmission glitched. At first, it seemed like a simple signal error. The image of Earth shimmered, then froze. The sound of fire faded. For 3 seconds, the galaxy saw only black. Then something appeared, a shadowed face, human, covered in blood and ash. Half of his visor was broken. Behind him, smoke twisted through the air. His voice trembled but cut like a blade. This is Captain Elias Ward, United Earth Defense Command. To anyone who can hear me, we are not done. Not yet. The feed crackled. Sparks of light flashed behind him. The sound of distant gunfire echoed. They call us weak, Elias said, coughing blood. They think compassion is weakness. But they've never seen what love does when it's cornered. He held up a scorched earth flag. The cloth was torn and burned, but still there. If this message reaches you, he said, tell them, humanity fights until the last heartbeat. Then the feed went dark again. For a moment, no one in the galaxy moved. The silence was heavier than fear. In the Dominion command ship, alarms began to beep. The technicians shouted in their own alien language, confused. Impossible. All human transmissions were destroyed. The frequency is coming from Earth's surface. Zarkol turned sharply. Locate it. Now. The technicians obeyed, scanning the frequencies. But the source was moving, jumping from tower to tower, bouncing off satellites that should have been dead. Someone, or something, had hijacked the Dominion's own network. The hologram flickered again. A different human appeared, a woman this time, her hair short, her eyes cold and alive. She wore a tattered uniform and spoke with calm fury. This is Commander Riakata. If you're seeing this, it means we're still breathing. You thought you buried us under fire, but you only taught us how to fight in the dark. Her voice was low but steady. Behind her, other humans moved through ruins, carrying parts, welding metal, dragging injured people. We were scientists, teachers, workers. You turned us into soldiers. You took our skies, but you forgot something. She lifted a small metal chip, glowing blue. You forgot what we can build with nothing. The screen went black again. Then the Dominion logo appeared, overwritten, corrupted. In its place, a new symbol formed, a clenched human fist surrounded by fire. It spread across alien systems like a virus. Every Dominion channel, every broadcast, every control panel now carried the same words. We are still here. Hours later, in the ruins of what was once New York City, Riakata stood on top of a collapsed tower. Around her, the air was thick with ash. The moon hung broken in the sky, its surface cracked from orbital bombardments. A small group of survivors gathered beside her, maybe 20 people, wrapped in armor built from scrap metal and melted drone parts. Their faces were tired, dirty, but their eyes burned. One of them, a young engineer named Mason, whispered, "They'll come for us now." Rhea nodded. "Let them." In the distance, a Dominion patrol ship moved through the sky, its searchlights cutting through the smoke. The sound of its engines grew louder. Rhea held up a small beacon device. "They think they erased us," she said. "But every time they burn a city, they make more of us. Every death is a signal." She pressed a button. The beacon glowed bright red, sending a coded pulse into the sky. The pulse was faint, almost invisible, but it carried far, bouncing between the broken satellites above Earth. Somewhere on Mars, deep under the old colony domes, a listening station picked up the signal. Lights flickered on for the first time in months. A computer voice whispered, "Incoming transmission from Earth." Back in orbit, Zarkol watched the endless reports come in. Human signals appearing again, one after another. Underground, underwater, even from the far side of the moon. He clenched his claws. "It's impossible," he hissed. "We burned their world." But deep down, he felt something he had never felt before: unease. He turned to his officers. "Begin planetary sweep. No survivors." The officers obeyed. The great engines of the Dominion fleet turned toward Earth again, glowing like suns of death. But far below, in the shadows of the ruined world, humans were already moving, rebuilding, hiding, whispering. Their message had gone beyond Earth now. It was traveling through the stars, through every system that ever heard their cries. And across 1,000 worlds, something new began to stay. The war for humanity had only just begun. Smoke still rose from the ruins of old New York when the signal from Rhea's beacon finally reached the underground. It traveled through half-broken cables, echoing across dark tunnels, until it reached the heart of what humans now called Echo Base. Once, this place was a subway control station. Now it was a command center of the last human resistance. The air smelled of oil and dust. Wires hung from the ceiling like vines. Generators hummed, dim lights flickered, and every few seconds, a deep metallic groan came from the city collapsing above them. Commander Rhea Carter walked through the tunnel with a hard expression. Her boots splashed through puddles of black water. Around her, survivors worked in silence, welding armor, fixing drones, and preparing weapons made from alien scrap. She stopped beside Mason, the young engineer who had helped her send the broadcast. His face was pale, but his hands moved quickly over a broken Dominion transmitter. "Any luck?" she asked. He gave a dry laugh. "Luck died with the satellites, Commander, but I've got something." He pointed to the screen. "Alien tech. It's encrypted, but the signal structure looks like a hive network. They talk through layers. The main fleet sends orders, smaller drones repeat them." Rhea leaned closer. "So if we break into that network?" Mason nodded. "We can listen, maybe even speak." The thought hung in the air. Speaking through the Dominion system was suicide. One wrong pulse, and the fleet would trace them in seconds. But Rhea's voice was firm. "We take the risk. If they know we're alive, good. Let them chase us into the dark. The more attention they give us, the less they give others." She turned to her crew. Soldiers, medics, engineers. Some were barely out of their teens. Some had lost everything. All of them looked at her the same way, waiting for something to believe in. "Humanity doesn't die in silence," she said quietly. "Not while we can still fight, or build, or think." Her words spread like fire through the tunnels. For the first time in months, the base felt alive. Hours later, Rhea sat at a table covered with alien blueprints and human maps. The Dominion had begun building terraforming towers across the planet, tall spires that changed Earth's air and soil into alien forms. Once complete, no human could survive on the surface. The towers were powered by reactors hidden deep underground, each one guarded by drones and defense fields. If humanity didn't stop them soon, Earth would no longer be home. Rhea studied the diagrams in silence. Then she noticed something, a weak point in one of the tower's communication systems. A data tunnel, unshielded. A path straight into the Dominion's central relay. She called Mason. "I need you to patch into this. Send a go signal. Make it sound like a malfunction. We'll slip inside their network through the noise." Mason frowned. "Commander, that could fry every system we have." "Then we fry with purpose," she said. He smiled faintly. "You're impossible. That's the point. Above them, The night sky burned red as Dominion drones circled the city. Searchlights swept the ruins, scanning for movement. In one of the upper tunnels, 2 human scouts crawled through a collapsed street. Their names were Harper and Singh. They were searching for parts, anything to keep the base running. As Harper lifted a broken metal beam, she froze. The faint hum of engines echoed overhead. She looked up. A Dominion patrol ship hovered just above, scanning the rubble. She whispered, "Don't move." The searchlight passed inches from her face. Dust fell from the ceiling. Her heart pounded so loud she was sure they'd hear it. Then, suddenly, the ship turned away, drawn by something else. A decoy drone Mason had launched. They waited a full minute before breathing again. "Echo Base owes that guy a drink," Harper muttered. They returned to the tunnels, shaking but alive. In the command room, Mason's hands flew over the console. Streams of alien symbols filled the screen. "We're in," he said. "Their comms are open, but there's interference. A lot of it." Rhea stepped closer. The static on the screen slowly formed into a shape, a voice speaking in the Dominion language, deep and cold. Then translated text appeared. "Fleet command to all units. Begin planetary sweep. Human survivors must be eliminated before Phase 2 of terraformation." Phase 2. Rhea felt her stomach twist. That meant the aliens weren't just rebuilding Earth for themselves. They were turning it into something else entirely. "How long?" she asked. Mason checked the readings. 3 days. Maybe less. She stood in silence for a moment, thinking. Then she said, "Then we hit them first." The decision spread fast. Every survivor in Echo Base prepared. They loaded makeshift rifles, packed explosives, and sealed their helmets. They weren't soldiers anymore. They were ghosts of a broken world, ready to strike from the ashes. Rhea looked at them. 20, maybe 30 people. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make the Dominion bleed. Before they left, she gave one last order to Mason. "If we don't come back, keep the network open. Someone out there is listening. Keep talking until they answer." He nodded, though his eyes were heavy with worry. "You really think someone's out there?" Rhea looked at the cracked ceiling, at the faint, distant stars barely visible through the smoke. "Someone always is." Outside, the first snow of the long winter began to fall, covering the ruins in a ghostly white. In the distance, the faint hum of Dominion ships grew louder. But under the ground, the pulse of human defiance beat stronger than ever. As Rhea's team moved out into the ruins, a single thought burned in every mind. They said humans were weak. Let's prove them wrong. And far above Earth, in the cold void of space, the Dominion fleet turned its senses toward the planet, unaware that the war they thought they'd won was only beginning to whisper back. The night over ruined Earth glowed red, not from fire this time, but from the sky filled with alien ships. Dominion patrols swept across continents, searching, scanning, burning anything that moved. But deep in the shadows below, humanity was finally ready to strike back. Commander Rhea Carter and her small strike team moved through the ruins of what used to be Pennsylvania. The cold wind carried the smell of metal and ash. Snow mixed with soot fell from the sky, silent but heavy. Each step echoed softly against cracked concrete as they approached an abandoned refinery, now crawling with Dominion scouts. Inside were fuel cells that powered nearby terraforming towers. If those cells exploded, the towers would fall silent for days. Rhea crouched beside a broken wall, holding a small pair of binoculars patched together from alien glass. 3 guards, she whispered. 2 drones on rotation. Short range, easy to jam. Beside her, Harper checked her weapon, a handmade rifle powered by stolen Dominion batteries. "You're calling this easy?" she asked quietly. Rhea smirked. "For us, that's almost peace." They moved like shadows through the snow. Mason stayed behind in Echo Base, watching their movements through a hacked Dominion satellite feed. His voice came through the radio, static-filled but calm. "You're clear for entry. Drone sweep in 60 seconds. Move now or lose your window." Rhea gave a hand signal. The team broke into pairs and moved fast. The air was cold enough to bite through armor. The refinery loomed like a dark skeleton against the dim light. Inside, They found the massive silver tanks that held Dominion fuel. The hum of alien machinery filled the air, deep, unnatural, alive. "Harper, plant the charges," Rhea said. As Harper worked, Rhea looked at the strange markings on the walls, glowing blue veins that pulsed softly. Dominion technology wasn't built, it grew, like living metal. She hated how beautiful it was. Then Mason's voice came through again, sharper this time. "Commander, I'm picking up movement. Not patrol, it's a convoy. Heavy transport with escorts. They're heading straight for you." Rhea froze. "How far?" "Less than 2 minutes." Her mind raced. A convoy meant resources, maybe reinforcements, maybe something worse. Either way, it was a chance to hurt the Dominion harder than she planned. "Harper, change of plan. We're not just blowing fuel, we're taking their convoy." The team looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Singh muttered, "That's suicide." Rhea tightened her gloves. "Maybe, but suicide with purpose." Outside, the snowstorm thickened. Visibility dropped. The convoy's lights cut through the haze, dark alien carriers hovering just above the ground. The humans spread out along the ridge above the road, taking positions among the ruins. Harper finished arming the detonator and handed it to Rhea. "When I blow the refinery, you shoot for the drivers," Rhea said. "They're biological, not machines." The soldiers nodded. The alien convoy rolled into view. Enormous black transports glided over cracked asphalt, their engines humming low. Smaller drones hovered around them like insects. Rhea waited. Her finger hovered over the detonator. Then she pressed it. The night exploded. A tower of flames shot into the air as the refinery went up, the shockwave shaking the ground. The Dominion convoy panicked. Drones swarmed in confusion. "Now!" Rhea shouted. The humans opened fire. Blue and red light flashed across the ruins. Bullets tore through armor, alien plasma bolts scorched the walls. Harper's rifle hummed as she fired burst after burst. Singh threw an EMP grenade, frying 2 drones instantly. Rhea moved fast, firing and ducking behind rubble, shouting orders over the chaos. "Left flank. Keep them blind." The aliens tried to regroup, but they weren't used to resistance here. The last human strike they'd seen was months ago, weak, scattered. This was different. This was coordinated. One Dominion soldier, tall and armored, charged toward Rhea. She dropped to one knee and shot through its chest plate. The alien collapsed, blue blood hissing against the snow. Minutes later, the convoy was in flames. Only one transport remained, its engine sputtering. Harper ran toward it, kicked open the side hatch, and froze. Inside were cages, filled with human prisoners. "Commander," she yelled. "They're alive." Rhea ran over, disbelief in her eyes. The prisoners were thin, covered in burns, but breathing. Children among them. Farmers. Engineers. Survivors the Dominion had captured for experiments. "Get them out," Rhea ordered. "Every one of them." They worked fast, cutting through locks with plasma blades. The rescued humans stumbled out, crying, shaking. One man fell to his knees, whispering, "We thought we were the last." Rhea helped him stand. "You're not," she said. "Not anymore." Far above the planet, Commander Zarkol watched the battle feed from his flagship. His 4 eyes narrowed as he saw Dominion units burning. "Impossible," he growled. The humans were finished. An officer bowed low. "Commander, the attacks match human weapon signatures. We're verifying." Zarkol slammed a clawed hand onto the console, silencing him. "No, there are no humans left to verify. They are ghosts." He turned toward the window, watching the flames rise on Earth below. Deep in his chest, something new stirred, not fear, but anger touched with respect. "Prepare a message," he said coldly. "To all Dominion fleets. Earth is not cleansed. Begin eradication protocols." Back on the ground, the battle was over. The humans gathered the freed prisoners and moved back toward Echo Base through the storm. Mason's voice came through the radio again. "I saw everything, Commander. You did it. You actually won." Rhea looked around at her exhausted team, faces covered in dirt and blood, but alive. No, she said softly. We survived. Winning comes later. As they disappeared into the snowy ruins, the faint light of dawn began to creep over the horizon. Pale, cold, but real. The first human victory in the war had begun, and somewhere in the silence between stars, other human colonies, hidden, lost, forgotten, began to listen. The galaxy was about to remember why humans were feared once before. The first blood was drawn. The war had just found its heartbeat. Snow still covered the ruins when Rear Carter's team returned to Echo Base. The underground air was damp and heavy, the tunnels humming with quiet life. Survivors gathered around the fire barrels, whispering about the convoy raid, the first real victory since the fall of Earth. But Rear didn't smile. She stood alone at the command table, staring at a flickering map of Earth and the moon. Her hands were covered in soot, her eyes sunken with exhaustion. Mason approached carefully. The rescued civilians are safe. They'll make it. Rear nodded but didn't look up. The Dominion will double their patrols now. That victory bought us attention we can't afford. Mason gave a tired grin. You mean we finally got under their skin? Rear looked at him, serious, calm. No, Mason, we got on their list. He hesitated, then changed the subject. There's something else you should see. He pressed a button, and a grainy hologram appeared, the surface of the moon. A cluster of old human mining facilities flickered across the screen, half buried under dust. One structure, however, still glowed faintly with power. Lunar Base 12, Mason said. It's supposed to be dead, but I caught a faint signal, an old human code, repeating on loop. Someone's alive up there. Reese stayed at the hologram. The moon, humanity's first step into the stars, long before the war. If survivors really were there, they might have tech or resources Earth no longer had. She spoke softly, almost to herself. Then we go to them. 2 days later, a shuttle hidden deep beneath the city roared to life. It was an old transport ship, patched with Dominion metal and human wires. A miracle that it even flew. As it rose through the cracks in the ruined surface, snow and ash swirled behind it. The stars stretched above, cold and infinite. Inside, Ree sat beside Harper, Mason, and a few others, the best she had. The hum of the engines was the only sound for a long time. Mason broke the silence. If this goes wrong, we'll be floating targets. Rhea gave a small, tired smirk. When did anything ever go right? Harper checked her rifle. She's got a point. The crew laughed quietly, not from humor, but from the thin edge of fear. It was the only way to keep it from swallowing them whole. Hours later, the ship crossed into lunar orbit. The moon filled the window, silent, cracked, lifeless. The Dominion had bombed it months ago to destroy satellite networks. Whole craters still glowed faintly from old fire. But then Mason pointed. There, look. A faint blue light blinked in the shadow of a crater. It was small, rhythmic, unmistakably human. That's the signal, Reese said. Lunar Base 12. They descended slowly, using debris fields as cover. The landing was rough. The ship groaned as it hit the dust, bouncing once before settling. When the engines died, the silence felt endless. Only the sound of breathing filled the cabin. Rhea stood, helmets on, weapons ready. We don't know who, or what, we'll find. They stepped out into the pale gray landscape. The stars stretched above them, unblinking. Earth hung huge and broken in the sky, its clouds tinted red. The base entrance was half buried in rock, sealed by a thick door marked with an old UN flag. Faded, but still visible. Harper wiped the dust away and smiled faintly. Feels like history. Mason connected a cable from his wrist pad to the door's control panel. Sparks flew as he forced the lock open. Systems are old, he muttered, but not dead. The door hissed. A wave of cold air escaped. Inside, the base was dark. Only a few emergency lights blinked in the halls. Their footsteps echoed softly as they moved through the empty corridors. Dust floated like ghosts in their flashlight beams. Then a voice cracked through the intercom, weak, trembling. Identify yourself, please. The team froze. Rhea lifted her helmet visor slightly. Commander Rear Carter, Earth Defense Command. We're survivors. We received your beacon. There was a long pause. Then the lights flickered on. From the shadows, a small group of people stepped out, maybe 10 of them, wearing old space suits patched with tape and cloth. Their leader, an old scientist named Dr. Kellen, looked at Rhea with disbelief. Earth still breathes, he whispered. Rhea nodded slowly. Barely, but yes. Dr. Kellen's eyes filled with tears. You have no idea how long we've been waiting for that answer. The survivors led them deeper into the base, through tunnels filled with old machinery and broken oxygen tanks. In the central chamber, Rhea saw something that made her stop. A massive cannon, half buried in dust, stretched across the floor. Old human markings covered its surface. Lunar Orbital Defense Platform, Project Titan. Mason's eyes widened. Is it what I think it is? Kellen nodded proudly. A rail cannon prototype, built to defend Earth from asteroids. Never completed, until now. Rhea walked around it, her glove hand brushing the cold metal. The cannon was massive, a weapon powerful enough to pierce a capital ship if it worked. Can it be fixed? She asked. Kellen hesitated. With enough power, but our generators are dying. Mason looked at the cracked walls. We can reroute what's left from our shuttle. It'll drain us dry, but it'll fire once. Rhea met his eyes. Once is enough. They worked through the night, welding, rewiring, and praying the metal would hold. The cold bit through their suits, but no one stopped. Finally, Mason wiped sweat from his forehead. She's ready. Rhea stepped up to the controls. On the display, Earth glowed faintly in the distance, and beyond it, the Dominion mothership in orbit. Target locked, Mason said softly. Rhea looked at the others. This is for everyone who never got the chance to fight. She pressed the trigger. The cannon roared to life. A beam of light shot from the moon's surface, cutting through space like a sword. Seconds later, the Dominion mothership flared, a blinding explosion rippling across its hull. Cheers filled the base. For the first time, humans had struck back from beyond Earth. But the celebration didn't last. Mason's console flashed red. Commander, they saw us. The fleet's turning toward the moon. Rhea's voice was calm, steady. Then we hold our ground. Outside, the dark side of the moon lit up as Dominion ships descended. The war had found them again, and this time, it was coming from the stars above. Humanity had awakened something the galaxy thought was gone. Hope. The first explosion hit the moon before anyone could react. Inside Lunar Base 12, metal screamed as shockwaves tore through the tunnels. Lights burst, alarms blared, and the ground shook like a living thing. Dust rained from the ceiling. Rhea Carter steadied herself against the wall, shouting over the noise. Status report. Mason's voice cracked through the chaos. Direct orbital strikes. Dominion destroyers are descending. They know exactly where we are. Another impact threw them off their feet. The air vents burst open, sending a storm of ash and freezing air through the base. The temperature dropped instantly. Dr. Kellen's trembling hands gripped the railing. They are bombing the surface. If they hit the reactor, they won't. Re-snapped. We're not dying down here. She turned to Mason. How long before the cannon can fire again? He shook his head, blood dripping from a cut on his cheek. We drained everything in that one shot. Commander, it's done. Rhea's jaw tightened. She looked at the massive weapon, now silent, glowing faintly from heat. The blast that destroyed the Dominion mothership had been their greatest victory, but it also exposed them. Now, the enemy was coming for vengeance. Above the moon, the Dominion fleet moved like a swarm of black wings. Hundreds of ships descended, their lights burning through the darkness. Commanders barked orders in alien tongues. At the front of the armada, High Commander Zarkol watched from his flagship. His golden eyes glowed with fury. They used ancient technology, he hissed. Primitive, yet powerful. I want their base turned to dust. No survivors. The ships answered with fire. Blue energy beams slashed through the lunar surface, carving massive scars into the gray rock. Whole ridges exploded into clouds of molten dust. From space, the moon looked alive, burning, bleeding light. Inside the base, panic spread. Oxygen alarms screamed. The walls cracked. Flames flickered through the hallways. Rhea grabbed a helmet and shouted orders. All units, fall back to Section D. Seal bulkheads behind you. Move. Soldiers and engineers scrambled through the tunnels, dragging injured survivors. The sound of collapsing metal followed close behind. Harper, her suit covered in ash, shouted from ahead. Pressure's dropping fast. We can't hold this corridor. Seal it. Rhea ordered. Harper slammed the emergency control. The heavy blast door slid down, cutting off the burning section of the base and a dozen people trapped inside it. Their screams faded into static as the door locked. Rhea stood there for a moment, her breath trembling. Then she forced herself forward. There was no time to mourn. They reached the command room, the last intact chamber. Half the monitors were dead, the rest flickering between static and enemy movement. Mason worked furiously, typing commands with shaking hands. I can reroute power from life support to the comms system, he said. Maybe send a signal to Earth before they finish us. Rhea nodded. Do it. Kellen stepped closer, his face pale. Commander, even if you get a message through, what good will it do? The Dominion has a fleet of hundreds. You can't win this. Rhea met his eyes. Her voice was quiet, but unshakable. We don't need to win. We just need to show them we can't be erased. Above them, the bombardment grew worse. Whole chunks of the moon lifted into space, glowing like fireballs. The Dominion fleet closed in, their engines lighting the sky. In the chaos, Mason's console beeped, a faint signal. He stayed at it, disbelieving. Commander, I think someone's hearing us. Rhea ran to his side. On the screen, a weak transmission flickered, a voice distorted by distance. This is ARC Command. Receiving lunar signal. Repeat, receiving lunar signal. Her heart stopped. The ARC program, humanity's backup fleet, launched before the fall. She had heard rumors, never confirmation. Mason, boost it. He redirected the last of the reactor's power to the signal. The lights dimmed. The air vents went silent. Rhea leaned close to the MIC. This is Commander Carter, Lunar Base. Earth still fights. We are under attack. If you can hear me. A massive explosion cut her off. The whole base shook violently. A ceiling beam collapsed behind them. Harper pulled Rhea out of the way just in time. Mason coughed, choking on dust. Reactor hit. It's unstable. Kellen shouted, if it blows, the whole base goes with it. Rhea looked at Mason. How long? He glanced at the readings. Minutes. Maybe less. She nodded slowly. Then we finished the message. The Dominion ships began to land. Massive claws tore into the moon's crust. Alien troops spilled out, tall, armored, merciless. Inside, Mason's fingers flew across the console. Signal's ready, but it'll need manual release. Rhea strapped on a helmet and grabbed the beacon drive. I'll do it. Harper grabbed her arm. Commander, that's suicide. Rhea's eyes softened. It's duty. She turned, running down the shaking hallway toward the outer bay. The walls glowed red as fire spread. Gravity flickered in and out. When she reached the launch tube, the ground split beneath her. She barely caught herself, crawling toward the terminal. The glass above cracked, the black of space staring down at her. She slammed the beacon into the port and pressed transmit. A bright pulse shot from the moon's surface, straight into the void, toward Earth and beyond. Behind her, the reactor alarm screamed. Mason's voice echoed faintly over the comm. Signal confirmed. Godspeed, Commander. Rhea looked out the viewport, saw the Earth shining far away, blue and broken but still alive. She smiled. For all of us, she whispered. Then the reactor exploded. From orbit, Zarkol's ship watched the blast bloom across the lunar surface, a blinding flash that swallowed lunar base whole. He turned away. It's done. Humanity's last breath. But behind him, a technician frowned at his console. Commander, the humans sent a transmission before the explosion. It's spreading across sectors. Zarkol's expression hardened. Erase it. But the message was already gone, racing through space faster than light. Hours later, far from Earth, a fleet of human ships drifted in the darkness, silent for years. One by one, their lights flickered on. The Ark fleet had heard the call. Humanity was not finished. It was waking up, and the sky that burned would soon burn again, this time for the Dominion. The moon had fallen, but its light had reached the stars. Space was quiet, too quiet. For nearly 50 years, the Ark fleet had slept in the dark. Massive human ships drifting between stars, powered down and forgotten. Their crews were frozen, their systems silent. A last hope buried in cold silence. Then, one small light blinked inside the flagship Ark Nova. The signal had arrived. A faint voice crackled through the dead speakers. "This is Commander Carter. Earth still fights." The ship's AI, an old voice named Elias, woke first. Its tone was calm but curious. "Signal confirmed. Source, Lunar Base. Year mismatch detected. Awakening protocol engaged." One by one, lights came alive across the ship's hulls. Cryopods hissed open. Steam poured into the chamber. Captain Aidan Holt gasped as his lungs filled with air. His body trembled from decades of sleep. He coughed hard, gripping the edge of the pod. Around him, dozens of officers awoke, confused, shivering, blinking against the cold light. "Status," he rasped. Elias answered, his voice echoing through the control deck. "All systems operational. Fleet awakening sequence at 47%. Message source identified, the moon. Transmission timestamp suggests active conflict with Dominion forces." The word Dominion froze everyone. It was a name from humanity's worst memories. The alien empire that had burned Earth and ended the war. Aidan looked out the window. In the distance, stars glimmered over a dark void. "After all this time," he whispered, "we thought we were the last." Elias replied softly, "Commander Carter's signal proves otherwise." By the next hour, the command center of Ark Nova was alive with movement. Crew members worked furiously to bring navigation online. Screens flickered to life, showing fragments of the transmission. Rhea Carter's face appeared, broken by static, but her eyes were fierce. "Earth still fights. We are under attack. If you can hear me." Then the image ended in light. Silence filled the room. Lieutenant Myra Zane wiped her eyes. "She died sending this, didn't she?" Aidan didn't answer. He just stared at the frozen screen, at that determined face from the past. He remembered her. They all did. Carter had been the one who refused to surrender when the Dominion came. The one who gave the order to launch the Ark fleet. Now, her final act had woken them up. "Elias," Aidan said, "locate Earth." The main screen shifted, showing a dull blue planet surrounded by orbital scars. Giant Dominion stations circled it like vultures. Dominion occupation level, 82%, the AI reported. Human presence minimal. No organized fleets detected. Aidan clenched his fists. "Then we'll change that." Myra looked at him in disbelief. "Captain, with what? We barely have half our ships online. The Dominion controls the whole system." He turned to her, his expression cold and steady. "Then we take it back one piece at a time." In the engineering bay, power surged through long-dead circuits. Ancient war machines hummed awake. Robotic drones crawled from storage like insects from a nest. Engineer Ravi Chen stared at the glowing panels. "These reactors, they are still running. After all these years." Aidan joined him. "They were built to last. Just like us." Ravi smiled faintly. "You know, sir, the old engineers used to say, the stars belong to those who don't stop trying." Aidan nodded. "Then let's make the stars remember who we are." Hours later, the Ark fleet gathered power. 8 colossal ships, each one a moving city, lit up in the void. Their engines burned white. They formed a slow arc, facing the direction of the solar system. In the command deck, Elias displayed the route, 22 light-years to Sol. Aidan watched the map, silent. His voice was calm, but every word carried weight. "We go home." Meanwhile, deep inside Dominion space, alarms flared. On the Dominion flagship Draction, High Commander Zarkol watched the reports with disbelief. "Impossible," he growled. "Human vessels, Reactivated. In our quadrant. His second-in-command, a smaller alien with silver skin, replied nervously. Confirmed, sire. They are moving towards Sol at high velocity. Zarkol's claws tapped the armrest. They should be dust. They were dust. He stood, his golden eyes narrowing. Prepare intercept fleets. If humans rise again, we will crush them before they take their first breath. Back aboard Ark Nova, the crew prepared for battle. Weapons were armed. Old mechs were reprogrammed. Drones patrolled the outer hulls. Myra watched the stars outside, whispering softly, "We outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Aiden stepped beside her. We've always been outnumbered. That's what makes us dangerous. She smiled faintly. You really think we can win? He turned toward the vast darkness ahead. Not yet, but we can remind them why they feared us. As the fleet accelerated, Elias spoke through the intercom. Captain Holt, incoming energy surge detected behind us. Dominion ships approaching from 3 sectors. Aiden's voice hardened. So they found us. He looked at the crew. Then this is where the war begins again. The stars ahead flared bright as the Ark fleet jumped into faster-than-light drive. Behind them, Dominion warships followed, their black holes slicing through the void. The chase had begun. Inside the glowing corridors, Myra passed a window and paused. The stars stretched into lines. Somewhere out there, beyond all that darkness, Earth waited. She whispered, "Hold on, Earth. We're coming back." As Ark Nova disappeared into the void, Elias' voice echoed faintly through the ship's systems. Reactivation complete. Humanity's last fleet is awake. Far behind, in Dominion control sectors, a secret signal pulsed in the dark. It wasn't from humans. It came from inside Dominion space, from an alien scientist who had once admired human resilience. She opened a private channel and whispered, "They are awake, and I will help them." Her name was Liren, and her betrayal would change everything. The stars shone brighter now, because the humans, once forgotten, had risen again. The war was no longer a memory. It was the beginning of the awakening.